Well, buen Camino there, Pilgrims. I am Jeremiah Gibbs. I am your Camino guide. And today we're going to be talking about all the different cell phone options that you have while you're on Camino, the different plans that you can use while you're there. We're going to make sure that you have exactly what you need, save any money that we're able to be able to get the needs met that you have. So stay tuned and let's find out about what you can do for cell phones on Camino de Santiago. Now, we should start off by saying that some folks are going to decide to disconnect from their virtual world, from their cell phone, their social media accounts, and so on while they're on Camino de Santiago. As a spiritual pilgrimage, you've heard me say before on this channel that one of the things that we want to be able to do is to be able to disconnect from our routine. There's lots of ways that you can disconnect from your routine, including you're not going to work, you maybe are not having the same kinds of patterns with your family and with your friends that you normally would. So there are already some ways that you are disconnecting from your routine just by going on the pilgrimage. But what you may choose that one of the ways you want to disconnect is to leave your phone at home, not have access to your social media accounts, to your emails, maybe even to the folks who might call you from work and things like that. So you may want to just disconnect altogether from your cell phone, and plenty of people have chosen to do that, and I've found that many of those people have a great pilgrimage experience. Others will say, that's not actually helpful for me. I want to be able to feel like I'm still connected with my family. Maybe I have safety concerns or things like that. So many people are going to say, I want to make sure that I still have cell phone coverage there, but my cell phone needs are very different when I'm in Spain than when I'm in the United States. I think two of the reasons that many people will decide that a phone is a good idea while they're in Spain, one would be for emergencies. And here we certainly mean medical emergencies and things like that can come up. But we also mean emergencies that I would need to be able to make a phone call. It would change and it would make things better if I am able to connect with, for example, to get a taxi ride out to where I am or something like that, but not necessarily a die-hard kind of emergency that life or death or that it's something that serious. But both kinds of emergencies, it may be important to be able to have a cell phone to be able to communicate either with people back home who might be having emergencies or emergencies that you might be able to take care of much easier if you just have access to be able to have a phone with you while you're on the trail. Certainly, those are one of the reasons that folks will make the pilgrimage with a phone. Secondly, obviously a phone is so multifunctional. So for me, it's a camera, it's a video camera and a photography camera that's pretty high quality. It's going to function from my guidebook, including the GPS coordinates that are connected with the guidebook that I use, the Wise Pilgrim app. There's lots of different ways that you're going to be able to make phone calls to albergues, be able to email or text with folks who are going to provide lodging, to be able to check on the hours of a cathedral or site that you might be going to visit. So there's lots of things that the phone is useful for while you're on pilgrimage, even and especially including using your guidebook apps and social media accounts to be able to share what's happening with folks back home. So obviously it's a multifunctional tool. And many of the things that you would replace it with, a camera and a guidebook and so on, are actually going to add up to more weight than just taking your cell phone. So it can be a pretty lightweight alternative to some of these other needs while you're on the trail. If you decide that you definitely are going to take a phone with you and be able to have it functional, you really have three options that are going to range in convenience and expense across the scale. Now, certainly the most convenient option, but also the most expensive option would be to simply go with your U.S. carrier and be able to use your same phone number, your same data plan, and so on. Oftentimes, this is going to be the most expensive. So I'm on AT&T. I do what they call an international day pass. They charge me $10 per day to use my plan while in Europe. So you can imagine if I'm on Camino for 20 days or so, it's going to be more than $200 to be able to use my phone while I'm there. I do sometimes do that. There's a variety of reasons, particularly when I'm leading trips. It's worth the expense to go ahead and do that. You might check with your carrier. There may be some carriers that are going to charge you less. Some would charge you more than that $10 a day. So it may or may not be worth it to you, and certainly one of the things that you'd want to look out for is that some of your plans will function while you're in Spain, but at a highly reduced speed, and that may or may not be okay for what you need the phone for. So you definitely check out what kind of speed and reliability options. I will say that of all the pilgrims that I have been on trail with that use their phone while in Spain, most of them have gotten fairly good coverage from their carrier, their U.S. carrier, while they're in Spain. So it's certainly an option that you might want to consider, but it is going to be the most expensive option of the three. Now, the second option that you may want to explore is to get a prepaid SIM card while you're in Spain. You're going to probably want to wait until you get to Spain to get this. You can walk into pretty much any of the major carriers, either at the airport in Madrid. I would not suggest getting at the airport, but you certainly can. Or one of the kind of major cities along the way. You'll see stores for the major carriers like Orange and Vodafone and some of the others that are there in Spain. So you just walk in, you buy a prepaid SIM card. Usually this is going to cost you between 10 euros and 30 euros to be able to get a fairly large data and calling package that are going to be adequate for you to be able to use for the time that you're in Spain. There's most phones are going to have a SIM card slot right in it, and here on the iPhone there's just a little slot, and you can push this little push a pin. I just keep a paper clip in my wallet whenever I'm traveling. Put a paper clip in that little hole, and the card slot will come out, and then you're able to put a SIM card in the slot. You'll see here on my iPhone that they now have virtual SIM cards in the iPhone 13. So there's no actual SIM card in here, but rather that's the spot that I would put a SIM card that I would purchase from a prepaid manufacturer. I would highly suggest, if you've never done that before, that you go ahead and have the store install it and get you up and running before you leave. It's usually pretty quick to be able to do that. I would say that for most people, the prepaid SIM card is going to be the best option to be able to keep a phone while you're in Spain. Again, 10 to 30 euros. That's going to cover for most of your data needs, calling and texting needs while you're in Spain. One thing to keep in mind about that is that that changes your phone number, because your data plan, your cell phone number, all of that is not actually stored on your phone. It's stored on the SIM. So when you change that SIM card out and begin functioning on the SIM card from the prepaid carrier, that's going to give you a Spanish phone number and Spanish texting number and so on. The only thing, if you happen to be an iPhone user, probably for most of your messages that go through on iMessage, they're going to function normally. You'll still receive those iMessages. You would still receive WhatsApp or any other apps that you might be using to message people. But do know that normal texting from your phone number is not going to work if you change out to a prepaid SIM. You'll need to have folks text you on the new Spanish phone number. I would say that for most pilgrims who want to use their phone, this is going to be your best option. Now, the third option that you might want to consider is to go for Wi-Fi only on your cell phone while you're in Spain. Now, it's fairly easy to do this. On iPhone, they call it airplane mode. You may have a different way of turning off the service in your Android phone, but regardless of how you do that, to go Wi-Fi only, you can keep the Wi-Fi turned on, you turn the cell phone coverage off on your phone, and then you would only be able to make phone calls, text, send messages, connect with social media, etc. when you are connected with a Wi-Fi zone whenever you're in Spain. The reality is that most bars, most albergas, most facilities that I experienced in Spain are going to have Wi-Fi. Many places it's very good coverage, others it may be more unreliable, but regardless, my experience has been, particularly in the last couple of years, that the coverage in Spain for the Wi-Fi and access to that is very, very good, and you'll be able to use all of your functions while you're connected with those Wi-Fi zones. Of course, the downside of this approach is that when you are not in a Wi-Fi zone, there's certainly going to be some features of your phone that are not going to function. I use the Wise Pilgrim guidebook. I'm able to download the maps for that guidebook. There's certainly other guidebooks that you can download the maps and put them on your phone. If you're able to do that, then GPS will still function without cell phone coverage. At least on the iPhone, and I believe on most phones, you can turn the cellular coverage off and still have GPS that will locate you and tell you where you are if you feel like you need the GPS coverage, but you would not be able to download maps and use maps unless you've already pre-downloaded them onto your device. And of course, if you decide to use the Wi-Fi only mode, then certainly if you got into an emergency situation, somebody's injured, you really are stuck out on the trail and need a taxi to come and to bring you to the next location, then you can always just turn your phone on, use it one time. You'll pay a lofty fee for that, but if it's an emergency, of course, you're not going to mind spending a little bit to be able to make the phone call that you need to get back to safety. If you've made Camino before, I hope that you will put in the comments, what plan did you use? How did you use your phone? What were what carrier did you use? And how was your experience using a cell phone in Spain? I think that'll be helpful for others who are planning the way as well. So again, I think all of these options may be good for some people. If you really want to stay connected, I think most people are going to choose the SIM option, but certainly I know lots of people who do the Wi-Fi only option, and they seem to have great experience, and it's at least one way to disconnect partially from their regular life, even if they might still connect occasionally to the Wi-Fi and get on social media and share messages with family back home and so on. And if you are planning to make Camino de Santiago, I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. I've got lots of videos on here that are helping with logistics and planning. I've got videos that are going to help sort of prepare spiritually and theologically for Camino de Santiago. And I hope that you will check some of those out and come back often. Click the like button. That'll help send this out to other people who are interested in Camino de Santiago. It really helps me to be able to get those videos out. So please do that, and share these videos with folks that in your circles that are interested in Camino. Buen Camino, Pilgrims, and I'll see you soon.